Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we will be discussing the tissue nematodes. In our previous lecture we have discussed the intestinal nematodes. So today we will be discussing the tissue nematodes, including the Wuchereria bancrofti, Trachanculus medinensis, and then the trematodes or the flukes that were the part of the phylum Platyhelminthes. The important class of the trematodes is the genus of the trematode is the Schistosoma hematobium, and then lastly a few words about the hemoparasites. Wuchereria bancrofti. The geographical distribution is worldwide, especially in the tropical and the subtropical areas. The habitat is the lymphatics. The adult form lives within the lymphatics of man. The morphology of Wuchereria is that they are hair-like with longer females as compared to males, and the larval forms, the diagnostic form, are the larval forms which are also referred to as the microfilaria. They are sheaths. Now coming to the life cycle, the larval forms referred to as the microfilaria normally circulate in the blood stream chiefly at midnight and are unable to develop further unless they are ingested by either a female Anopheles mosquito or the Culex mosquito. So after the mosquito takes the blood meal and ingests the microfilaria from the human blood, the microfilaria migrate to the gut of the mosquito and loses their sheath and penetrate their gut wall and migrate to the thoracic muscles. So here the snake-like organism changes into a small sausage-shaped structure with a short spiky tail, referred to as the L1 larva. Then the growth occurs once more, one or two molting processes occur, and the larva becomes actively motile again and change into the infective form referred to as the L3 larval form. So these now shift to the proboscis of the mosquito. So these infective larvae then enter the man through the mosquito bite. They enter the lymphatics and become adults. So here after fertilization the females start laying the microfilaria which travel within the bloodstream. So this is the characteristic life cycle of Wuchereria bancrofti. The right side of the figure describes the stages within the human with the blue arrows. So the humans are infected at stage 1 when the mosquito bites the human and the larvae enter the bloodstream. The adult Wuchereria worms are formed within the lymphatics. The mosquito is infected at step 4 when it ingests the microfilaria within the human blood. And the left side of the figure describes the stages within the mosquito with the red arrows. The mosquito, after ingestion of the microfilaria, they loses their sheath and form the sausage-shaped L1 larva, which after 2 to 3 molting forms L3 larva, which is motile and infective stage, and ultimately the life cycle continues. Now coming to the pathogenicity, Wuchereria bancrofti, because it is the disease of the lymphatics, it causes inflammation of the lymph nodes, ultimately leading to the blockage of lymphatics, leading to lymphangitis and lymphadenitis. So dilatation of the lymphatics occur, which is referred to as the lymphangiovarix. So obstruction of the lymph-bearing vessel like thoracic duct, referred to as the chylorrhagia. So there is progressive lymphadenitis as the worm dies, and the reaction at the site of lymphadenitis continues to occur, leading ultimately to fibrosis and granulomatous inflammation, which further obstruct the lymphatic channels and causes lymphedema and the solid edema of the legs. The massive edema of the legs is the characteristic condition that is produced by the Wuchereria bancrofti, referred to as the elephantiasis. So elephantiasis of the legs, scrotum, vulva, and less commonly of the arms and breasts are the characteristic pathogenic findings in the case of this parasite. So the stretched skin at the site of lymphangitis is susceptible to traumatic injury and infections. So not all the infections lead to elephantiasis. If the person is repeatedly infected, then he may develop this complication. So prognosis in the absence of elephantiasis is good. So this is the characteristic edema of the sacrotal area, and the right side of the figure indicates the obstruction of the lymphatics leading to lymphedema. This is the other figure depicting the massive edema of the legs and foot in response to Buscheriria bancrofti. So how will we will diagnose this disease? Because microfilaria chiefly travel in blood at midnight, so if we take the fingertip blood at midnight, the fresh cover slip blood film examination under the microscope will reveal the microfilaria. If positive, then thick and thin blood films are prepared and stained. So in the case of chyluria, microfilaria may be found within the urine sediment, and microfilaria can also be seen in the fluid obtained from a hydrocele. Hydrocele is actually the accumulation of fluid within the sacrotum between the tunica albuginea and the tunica vaginalis layer of the testes, and it is if it occurs due to Buscheriria infection, then microfilaria can be seen within the hydrocele fluid. So this is the characteristic microfilaria of the Buscheriria bancrofti. The disease can be treated only with the diethylcarbamazine, which is effective only against the microfilaria. No drug therapy for the adult form is available, and prevention involves the mosquito control with insecticide and using the mosquito repellents. So here we come to an end of Buscheriria bancrofti. The next tissue nematode is the Dracunculus medinensis. This disease is near about eradication, so we will quickly go through this disease. The geographical distribution is worldwide, especially in the tropical and the subtropical areas. The habitat is that the adult females are found in the subcutaneous tissue, chiefly in the legs, ankle, feet, and intramuscular connective tissue. So morphology, the adult worm is smooth and white. The head bears a terminal shield with a number of papilla. The females are longer as compared to the males. The life cycle is that the larvae are formed within the lesion on the skin of man. They are washed into the water, where they can survive for 2 to 3 days waiting for ingestion by a cyclops. So in the intermediate host, which is referred to as a cyclops, they penetrate the gut wall and develop into the infective stage within the body cavity. So man gets infected when he drinks the unboiled or contaminated water, so the digestive juices destroy the cyclops and the larval form is released, which penetrate the gut wall and become the adult. The male, after fertilizing the female, dies. So this is the characteristic lesion in the areas where there is habitat of drinking the contaminated water. So the females after fertilization migrate to the skin, usually but not always in the lower part of the body. On the skin, a blister first forms over the head of the worm because of the toxins that are excreted by the worm. So after a few days, the blister ruptures, leaving behind an ulcer. So when this ulcer is immersed in the water, the loop of uterus prolapses and the larvae are discharged within the water. The larvae are intermittently discharged on contact with water over a period of 2 to 3 weeks until all the larvae have evacuated. So the worm now dies and emerges either spontaneously or manually from the ulcer. So this is the characteristic life cycle of Dracunculus medinensis. The right side of the figure depicts the stages within the human body which get infected with drinking contaminated or unfiltered water containing the cyclops with L3 larvae. The larvae are released when the cyclops die, so the larvae penetrate the gut wall where they mature into the adult female and male. The male after fertilization dies and the fertilized female worm migrates to the surface of the skin, causing blister and ultimately ulcer with formation of the ulcer, and ultimately from the ulcerated area the larvae are released when the part where the ulcer is formed is immersed in water. So the left side of the figure depicts the stages within the intermediate host or the cyclops. where the L1 larva, which is consumed by the cyclops, is converted into the L3 larva, which is the infective form, and ultimately this infective form is again infectious to the human. So the pathogenicity, it causes dracontiasis, the symptoms of which include the allergic and the toxic manifestation. After the rupture of the blister, a secondary infection may spread along the track of the worm with severe inflammatory reactions including the cellulitis, extensive ulceration and necrosis. So this is the characteristic treatment of Dracunculus medinensis, that is the manual removal of the worm, which may cause severe inflammatory reaction with the help of stick. So the diagnosis: few drops of water are poured over the ulcer to cause the discharge of the larva. The water is now collected with a pipette and placed over the slide and covered with a cover slip where the larval form can be visible. So intradermal skin test is another test that is used with a Dracunculus antigen, which produces a wheal in the infected area in 24 hours in positive cases. So this is the figure depicting the manual removal of the worm from the site of the blister or the ulcer. So here we come to an end of the phylum Nematihelminthes, or the nematodes. Now we will be discussing the last parasite from the phylum Platyhelminthes. We have discussed the cystodes or the tapeworms. The other class of the phylum Platyhelminthes is the trematodes or the flukes, and the important trematodes or flukes are the schistosoma, the blood fluke, Phlonorchis sinensis, that is the liver fluke, and the Paragominus westermanni, that is the lung fluke. And among these three flukes, Schistosoma hematobium is very important, and it is only the trematode that is included in your university syllabus, so we will be discussing only the Schistosoma species. So Schistosoma has basically the three species: the hematobium, the Schistosoma japonicum, and the Schistosoma mansoni. They have a few characteristic morphological differences with the differences in their location. So the geographical distribution of Schistosoma hematobium is various parts of Africa, Middle East, Cyprus, India, Mauritius, and the Portugal. Habitat is that the adult worm live in the portal and the venous vesical plexus. The Schistosoma hematobium species, the adult worm lives within the portal and the venous vesical plexus, while in the case of Schistosoma mansoni and the japonicum, they live within the mesenteric veins. So morphology: the adult worms are paired, approximately 10 to 20 millimeters long, so they live in pair forms. The male has an unusual lamellibranch shape with marginal folds forming a canal in which the slender female worm resides. So the eggs are elongated, spindle shaped with a terminal spine at one end in the case of the Schistosoma hematobium, while the Schistosoma mansoni has a lateral spine in its egg, while the Schistosoma japonicum has a small lateral spine. So the eggs contain a larva that is referred to as the miracidium. So this is the characteristic morphology of the adult form of the Schistosoma. The adult live in paired form with the male having the marginal fold in which the slender female worm resides. This is the characteristic shape of the Schistosoma hematobia egg with the characteristic terminal spine at one end. Now coming to the life cycle, the definitive host is man and the intermediate host is the freshwater snail. So the eggs are passed in the urine of man. The eggs hatch when the urine gets diluted with water and the miracidium is released. So the miracidium escapes and swims in water in search of a snail. Finding one, it penetrates the soft tissue of the snail and reaches its liver. So here it loses its cilia and other organs and changes into a tubular structure referred to as the sporocyst. So the sporocyst multiplies and forms many sporocysts, which give rise to the final larval form, which is in the shape of a fork, that is the fork-tailed, and is known as the cercaria. So this is the definitive host, the intermediate host of the schistosoma, that is the freshwater snail. And this is the microscopic appearance of the sporocyst. And this is the characteristic shape of the cercaria, that is the fork-tailed shape, and it is the infective form. So the man gets infected while bathing or swimming in contaminated water. So the cercaria penetrate the skin of man and loses their tail. So they are carried through the blood via the right side of the heart, ultimately the lungs, into the systemic circulation, where they reach the portal system and become the adult form, and now they migrate to the vesical plexus. So the fertilization takes place and the females start laying eggs. The eggs pass through the tissue with the help of lytic ferments secreted by the larva to reach the mucosa of the bladder. Here many of them get calcified to give rise to so-called the sandy patch appearance, while the other pass into the bladder and are passed into the urine. So this is the characteristic life cycle of the schistosoma species. The right side of the figure describes the stages within the human with blue arrows. The humans are infected at step 2 when free-swimming cercaria penetrate into the human skin. Cercaria differentiate into the adult forms into two sexes that migrate to the mesenteric veins in the case of Schistosoma mentheni and Schistosoma japonicum, or the venous plexus of the urinary bladder in the case of the Schistosoma hematobium. The adult worm lays eggs which appear in the stool in the case of Schistosoma mentheni and japonicum, or the urine in the case of the Schistosoma hematobium. So the eggs are passed into the fresh water where the Miracidia stage infect the snails. So the left side of the figure depicts the stages within the snail in the red arrows. So within the snail, the Miracidia penetrate the snail and ultimately transform into the sporocyst, and the sporocyst after multiplication form the cercaria, which are fork-tailed, and they are released by the snail into the skin of the human body, and the life cycle continues. So pathogenicity, the worms may cause dermatitis, endophlebitis, or they may even block the veins. So papillomas containing many eggs may develop into the bladder wall, and these papillomas ultimately ulcerate to cause hematuria. So sometimes the papillomas, as a result of repeated infection, fibrosis, and inflammation, may turn malignant. Urogenital cystitis may develop. So the characteristic diagnosis is by finding the eggs in the centrifuge deposits of the urine, the vesicle or the rectal biopsies for the presence of eggs, the Farley's intradermal test, the precipitation test, and the immobilization test. So the treatment of choice is praziquantel, and prevention involves the proper disposal of the human waste and eradication of snail hosts when possible. So the swimming in areas of endemic infection should be avoided. So this is the characteristic morphology of the Schistosoma hematobium egg, the terminal spine. And this is the microscopic appearance of the parasites within the bladder mucosa on the left side, and after calcification, the appearance of the urinary bladder wall. So here we come to the end of the trematodes. Now few words briefly about the hemoparasites. Hemoparasites are basically the parasites that infect the human blood, or they may travel within the human blood. So these are few of the parasites within the phylum Protozoa. The intracellular among these are the Plasmodium species, the Plasmodium falciparum, ovale, vivax, and malariae. Then the Leishmania tropica, Donovanae, Major, Mexicana, Ethiopica, and Braziliensis. Then among the extracellular protozoan are the Trypanosoma, Gambiense, Rhodesiense, and Cruzi. I have not discussed these within the phylum Protozoa because they have not been included in your university syllabus. If you want, I will go quickly through these parasites. Then the nematodes, among the nematodes, the hemoparasites are the Bushraria bancrofti because they may infect the lymphatics. Then Acanthochilonema persistens, Mensonella ozardi, Loa loa, and Onchocerca volvulus. Thank you so much for patient listening.